How did you find out that he had moved on quite that quickly and brusquely?
Well, I would actually say he didn't move on, he cheated.
Right.
He was messaging her while we were still dating. I couldn't bring myself to read most of them. They were horrendous.
This is the plaintiff, Craig Whittleson. He says the defendant's his ex-girlfriend, and when he broke up with her, she maliciously vandalized his belongings because his new girlfriend had purchased them for him. He understands the defendant's not happy he's with someone else, but that certainly doesn't give her the right to trash his stuff. He's suing for $616.35, the amount he's owed. This is the defendant, Alyssa. She says the plaintiff left her for one of her friends, and needless to say, she felt blindsided. She snapped and did damage some of the things his new girlfriend bought him. They came up with a settlement of $345, which she paid him. Now he's turning around and trying to up the price on her, and that's not fair. She's accused of completely losing it.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
What you are about to witness is real. The participants are not actors. They are actual litigants with a case pending in civil court. Both parties have agreed to drop their claims and have their cases settled here before Judge Marilyn Milian in our forum, the People's Court.
People's Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Marilyn Milian presiding. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Whittleson, what happened?
All right. So I was over at my girlfriend's, and when I'd come back, I realized that my PlayStation 5 and my comics and an iPod and a controller and a video game had been broken.
Who was breaking your stuff?
Alyssa.
What relationship did you have with Alyssa?
She was my girlfriend.
Oh, so
she was my ex-girlfriend.
Right. I know she's your ex-girlfriend now. Who was she your girlfriend when this happened?
No.
Okay, so you had broken up when?
We had broken up, I think, a week.
Okay.
After.
Okay. So you had a new girlfriend, and you were at the that was mighty quick, and you were at the new girlfriend's house when old girlfriend came over to your place. By the way, how long had you been dating?
Almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years. Since high school?
Yes.
Because you guys are pretty young. How old are you?
I'm 19.
And how old are you, Alyssa?
20.
Okay. So had you been living together?
I'd say partially.
Okay. And were you living at your parents' house?
Yes.
Okay. So who lets Alyssa into the house?
I really don't know. I believe it was my mother.
Okay. And then she lets Alyssa into your room?
Yes.
And the stuff that Alyssa damaged, are they things she knew belonged to you?
Yes.
Were they stuff that you had while you were with her?
Partially, yeah.
Like what?
Like the PlayStation 5, the comics, and the iPod.
What am I looking at in this picture?
That would be the PlayStation 5. And those are the HDMI ports. That is the controller that had his top ripped off. And those are the bent comics.
I mean, I don't even see them bent in here. So how do you find out that this damage has been done?
When I came home the night of hanging out with my girlfriend, I went to go turn on the PlayStation 5 and had realized that it wouldn't turn on. So I checked the power source and the power cord was gone. And then I went to lift up the controller and the top came off. And that's when I realized that the ports were damaged, and I started searching my room for more damage, and I saw that my comics had been bent and the iPod.
Right, but how did you figure out what had happened?
I assume.
Did you know she was there?
No, I didn't.
So did you go out and ask your parents, hey, was she here? Like, how did you figure out that she did it?
I came to my mom and I told her what happened, and she said she had no idea. She let Alyssa in, and she said she must have done it when she came in.
All right, Alyssa, what's going on?
So that day was when I was collecting the last of my things. his new girlfriend, which for privacy reasons I will reference a different name, so I'll just go by Abby. Abby had shared text messages that they were sending between each other with her friend.
Why would you
and then
care to
her
keep
friend
her
reached-
private? She wrecked your life. That's kind of sweet on your part, but so we'll call her new girlfriend, shall we? And
New girlfriend.
how did you find out that he was he had moved on quite that quickly and brusquely?
Well, I would actually say he didn't move on. He cheated.
Right.
He was messaging her while we were still dating. Just, I couldn't bring myself to read most of them. They were horrendous. I just didn't even know how to react. And so then when I got those messages from the new girlfriend's friend informing me they were still messaging each other, that's when I went over to the house to just collect the last of my things. And that was my true intent when I got there. But of course,
then
it
what
didn't end up
happened?
that way. So I got in there and
The night
was
that you guys
grabbing
are talking about this, when is it that you discover these messages? What time of the night?
He had come home at around 3 a.m. after hanging out with a new girlfriend, but at the time was just his friend.
You thought that he was just with friends, or you thought she was just a friend?
Yeah, I thought
Yeah,
she
men
was
and women
just a
can't be
friend.
friends. All right.
Yeah.
So that's not true, but it's often true. So high alert. That's all I'm saying is high alert. All right. So now he comes home and you have just caught the messages on his phone?
It was actually that iPod that he mentioned. I looked at Messenger and I saw that he had changed the pet name for her to the same pet name that he had for me,
Really?
which was my one and only.
Really? And was she a friend of yours?
She was my friend for about 7 to 8 years.
Like a close friend?
Yeah, I would say she was fairly close. I helped her through a lot of breakups. It's funny because one of her friends did this exact same thing to her, and I was helping her every step of the way through that. But
all right, so it's 3 a.m. You're talking to him, and you think things are going to be okay?
yeah, because I don't know if a lot of people, I'm sure that a lot of people experience this, but when I looked at his face, he still looked like Craig. You know, he didn't turn into this horrible monster cheater. Like, he still looked like himself.
So did you guys break up that night?
Not that I was aware of. I'm pretty sure.
In fact, according to you, that night you had physical relations.
Yeah, it was, I'm sorry, not that night. It was the next night. We were still talking about it, and I was just trying to figure out if he wanted to move on. And then, yeah, he had sexual relations with me. And then the next morning, he was kicking me out of the house.
You go over there a few days later, and what happens? What do you do to his stuff?
So when I got those messages, I did act rash, and it was definitely a blind act of rage. I was very uncaring towards this stuff. The PS4, I did stick a foreign object, I can't remember exactly what it was, into the ports and bent them. And then I threw the controller, and I remember having the iPod. I was pretty forceful with it. And yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to think back because it's been about a year. So just trying to think back on the event. And with all the emotion rising, it was really hard to remember exactly what happened in details because I was just trying not to throw up at that point. I was trying to get everything and get out.
When you get back to where did you go, by the way?
From his house?
Yeah.
I went to my aunt's house.
All right. So, and at some point when you're at your aunt's house, do you collect your thoughts and say, wow, or does someone call you and say, what did you do? How does everything pan out after that?
100%. I felt horrible, and I was contemplating reaching out, but I didn't want to breach. And I was like, well, I'm not blocking them. I'll give open access contact. And they didn't message me for around 2 days. And it was then I found out it was because he was sleeping over at this girl's house.
So he hadn't even come home. All right. So,
yeah, he wasn't even.
So when does someone say, hey, what did you do? Is it him? Is it his mom? Who is it?
I believe it was his older sister on my behalf. along with his sister-in-law just harassing me about ignoring those messages. But my older his older sister reached out. I was at work at the time, so I was a bit nervous. I talked to the manager, and she told me to not respond for now and to block them for now, which was a stupid mistake. So I was glad that they reached out another way, and then we set up a meeting point.
Okay, tell me what the older sister and the mother said to you.
They were just talking about where we want to meet, and
Meet
most
for
of it
what?
was
For
actually,
what purpose?
to pay back the PS5 and to pay back for the damages.
Okay.
And I also
Were they
called
mad at you?
Yeah, they were. Well, yeah, they were fairly mad, and I, of course, I was fine with that because I knew that what I did was wrong. But they weren't overly mad and
Did you
being
tell them that their
aggressive.
son was a cheater with a friend of yours?
Yeah, I sent the messages.
Did they feel bad about it, or they said that's not what
Yeah.
we're concerned about?
They did. That's what happened when I actually got there, is that they were like, I know that what you did came from a place of pain. I know you're not like this, because I lived with him for 2 years. So they started to know me as well as me, being his girlfriend. So they had some sympathy for me.
So what did they say to you at that meeting?
They were mainly just talking about what happened, and I mostly was just how do I pay this back? And so I gave them the rest of my scholarship money, which was $345. And I asked, well, how else would you like me to pay? I know this isn't going to cover it. And they told me hey, it's fine. We understand that this happened. This should help cover the damages. So I assumed that it was fine then.
Okay.
Sorry.
So when is the next time you hear from Craig that he wants more money?
Oh, yes. I should have also mentioned, sorry, that at that meeting spot, I told them that Craig could contact me if there was anything else they need to reach out about, and then he blocked me. So I assumed that was it. And the last I heard from Craig was right now when he sued me.
A year later.
Yep.
All right, Mr. Whittleson, how is it that this was not resolved at the meeting when you sent your emissaries to meet with her to discuss the damages?
So I had not sent them out. They didn't tell me that price was okay. It wasn't until later down the road that they said that $350 was going to be okay. And I said that won't cover the price of what a PS5 is worth now. It's double the price now. And it technically isn't my property to be saying that price was okay.
What do you mean?
So the PS5 was still being paid on by my new girlfriend's dad.
Well, why is your new girlfriend's dad buying you a gaming toy? I don't get it. That was already at your house for when she still had her stuff there?
Yes.
Okay. And my understanding is that the dad then contacts you?
Yeah.
The dad of the new girlfriend contacts you and says what?
He says basically, hey, I'm going to do a police report on you in your life if you don't give me $1,000.
These are the texts between you and the father of your friend who started dating your boyfriend?
Yes.
You can call me later or text me. I'd rather deal with you. You just have to make arrangements with me so I know what's going on, because you're a good person. I have nothing against you. I like you. It's just one of those things we do sometimes. We don't think, but it replaced or paid for. I don't want to take the next step. If you don't want to take care of it, you won't like that. So I'm being nice here. Here's the thing, Mr. Whittleson. What I'm not getting is there's a meeting, and at the meeting things are discussed, and they say, that's fine, $350 will do it. You don't debate that. You say they didn't have the authority to say that. But you took the $350, right? They came home and told you, here's the $350.
Yes. And I subtracted that.
Oh, that's big of you. Because the problem that we have here, you go to the police, right, Ms. Alyssa? And what do the police say to you?
They tell me that because those two were speaking on his behalf, because that was also the home property, they were the owners of the home as well. And I was acting under the assumption that they were speaking on his behalf. Again, he didn't contact me with any other new information. The police said that was settled outside of court. There was
right. There's a concept in the law called accord and satisfaction. okay? And it means the courts want to encourage people to resolve cases, all right? So when people resolve cases instead of going to court, then we say, great, that's done. We don't let you then bring a lawsuit a year later as well. Why is it a year later? And if 350 that you accepted wasn't enough, why didn't you make a claim right away or talk to her right away or demand more in a text right away? How does a year pass and then daddy calls her and says, oh, you know what? That was actually mine because I'm still paying on it. Had your girlfriend given you that as a gift? Is that the idea?
Yes, I believe so.
And so because
Reason why
daddy's still paying for the gift that daddy can't afford and daughter can't afford to give boyfriend who's fresh off the girlfriend he's lived with for 2 years by a few days, because of that, all of a sudden he's going to come and threaten her with the police a year later? You can tell me that they didn't have the authority to go there and talk to her about the damages, but I got to tell you, if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, and quacks like a duck, I usually find it to be a duck. They're meeting with her. They accept the money. You accept the money from them. You knew they were meeting with her. Why do you send them to meet with her if you're not giving them the authority to settle the case? And if they didn't tell her, yes, this'll do it, go vaya con Dios, then why aren't they here to tell me that they didn't say that?
because I don't believe they wanted to be on.
Right. So here's what I have. I have people who went to talk to her about resolving the damages. She going to meet them. They taking 350 and saying that'll do it. And you acting like that did it for almost a year. You know what? If it was good enough for you then, it's good enough for me now. I'm ruling in favor of the defense. This was settled out of court. And listen to me. I can hear from the sound of your voice that you are still in pain, Ms. Alyssa, over what it is that happened here. But it's time for you to move on, right? And I don't know if you have, I hope you have. Maybe part of your breaking up while you're telling me this story is your embarrassment and humiliation at how you behaved and how you were treated. Maybe that's part of it. But I hope that you have moved on, because you are 20. Like, way best years of your life are not even in the horizon yet, sweetheart. You understand that, right? Verdict for the defendant.
Thank you, Your Honor.
So the judge finds for the defendant in this case, the plaintiff, Mr. Widdowson, is not going to get any more money out of her. How do you feel about that? What are you thinking, Mr. Widdowson?
I hope Alyssa has a good rest of her life. I'm sorry. I'm truly, truly sorry that I did that to her. And, well, that's about it.
All right. Well, fair enough. Hope she can accept that. Alyssa, what do you think about what he just said to you? He's sorry he did this. He sued you for this. What do you think?
Well, that's the first time he actually apologized to me for the whole event, so I guess that's something to hear. I mean, I'm just glad that it's over and they can no longer contact me about this.
All right. Good luck to you. And I'm glad you don't have to pay. You won. Good luck. All right. That'll wrap up this really intriguing case. Harvey?
So, Doug, it's as simple as this. When you make a deal to settle a dispute, that in the law is called an accord in satisfaction. That means you can't turn around and get a second bite of the apple by suing because you didn't get all the money you might be entitled to. When you settle for good. That will do it for this case. Litigants for the next case inside the courtroom.
Hey, judges, I heard you like the cartoon series South Park. Who's your favorite South Park character?
Cartman, by far. Cartman. He's ridiculous. Everything out of his mouth is ridiculous.
Right.
It's always funny. He's definitely my favorite, not because he's likable, but because he's hysterical.
What I like about Cartman also is he is so manipulative.
He really is.
And he's very highly intelligent. He's just diabolical, and he's like the villain who usually the plans blow up in his face.
Right.
Somehow at some point in the whole thing.
Yeah.
My favorite character is probably PC Principal.
Oh, that's right.
Because
you actually dressed up as PC Principal.
Right.
You look just like him when he came in
when I
season
put the
20
Oakley sunglasses
and
on,
started to
khakis and all that
to
stuff.
get everybody politically correct in the high school, in the elementary school.
It's funny because I'm usually not politically correct, but sometimes I am, and never in a hurtful way. But And he is absolutely politically correct about everything, always, every second. He chooses his words rather carefully, and it's hilarious. So it's kind of a guilty pleasure for us to watch that once in a while, right?
Yeah.
These are the plaintiffs, Jan Safarik and Jennifer Lee Harbor. Jan says he and his girlfriend rented a room in the defendant's house, and once they got there, they realized the environment was hostile. That's right, the defendant blamed them for stealing her food, stealing too much Wi-Fi, and they couldn't take it any longer and moved out. The defendant refuses to return their money, and they're here suing her for the $525 they say they're owed. This is the defendant, Christy West. She says the plaintiffs almost caused her death by leaving a door open, which exposes dangerous stairs. They did indeed steal her food, and they're out of their minds if they think she's the one who owes them money. She's accused of holding on tight to the cash.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiffs say that they rented a room from the defendant, but the place was such a hostile environment, they bailed. Now they want their money back. But the defendant says the plaintiffs almost caused her death because they left a dangerous door open, which led to a treacherous staircase. They stole her food, and she's glad they moved out. It's the case of get a room, a non-hostile one.
Thank you, Douglas.
You're welcome.
Okay, let me hear from the plaintiffs first. The two of you were renting a place from Ms. West?
Yes.
And how much were you paying per month?
It was $14.50 for the first 3 months, which was supposed to include the utilities.
Okay, and how long did you folks live there before a problem came up?
Well, it was about the first month, and the problem started, and they escalated to a point that we decided to move out earlier.
All right, and what were the problems?
There was a problem between Jennifer and the landlady that escalated to a point that Jennifer was starting to be accused of.
Okay, so Jennifer, maybe you can speak now and tell me what the problem you had with the landlady was. First of all, was she living in there with you guys?
Yes, ma'am.
And was anybody else living there?
Well, she told me that there was a teacher that lived upstairs, and she had a man that was kind of like her butler that lived there. And I thought she had the downstairs turned into a living room because her foot was hurt. But it comes to find out that she had several people living there. She had people living in the backyard that were Mexicans that were on meth. And she said she would give them just a bowl every day to get by. There was like 5 dogs in the house that were biting everybody. She had like 2 people living in the garage, 2 people living in a back garage in the back of the house that was all just thrown to, and it was just police getting called every day. And it was a really scary environment.
Okay. What was the problem that Mr. Safarik was saying had arisen between you and the landlord? What was the specific problem?
Christy actually has a great personality, and she's really funny, but she reminds me of my mother a lot. But she's just so dramatic and theatrical, and she needs so much attention that she's not getting for whatever reason, that she will yell every time you go past the steps, like she wants you to help her cook dinner. She wants you to help her take some trash out or help her. You know, I don't mind helping her, but it's like we couldn't work. We couldn't do anything. We were getting screamed at. It was just scary. It was filthy. It was a nightmare. And then
you didn't have a lease, right? This was a month to month?
We're going month to month. And as soon as we moved in, her son, I guess he lost his job or something. So he started living on the couch in the living room. And it was just it was just so many people there. But I think he needed a place to live. So she was trying to start being real mean to us to get us to move. And I wasn't going to let it work.
So, Ms. West, what seems to be the problem that you kept their security?
I kept some of their security. I kept the cleaning deposit. And first and foremost, I don't know if it matters now, but she has totally misrepresented the living situation, totally.
Okay, you tell me what it was.
It's a 4,500 square foot house, and I rent out the top floor, and everybody pitches in for cleaning and for things of that nature, and she can neither cook nor clean nor do any of this, and that is the situation.
All right. These folks lived there how long?
It was coming up on 3 months, I believe, by the time they got out.
Okay. And why is it that you kept their security deposit? And what did you keep? You kept a cleaning deposit. Tell me what that is.
I got $650 of $1,500.
Okay.
I never got the full deposit. And she had nothing to do with this. I rented to Philip.
Okay.
And she was with him.
Okay. But what gives you the right to keep $250 for cleaning? What gives you that right?
This is San Francisco. It's not, it's not Tulsa or Nashville or, it just costs more. And that's what I normally pay the woman that cleans for me.
But what gives you the right to deduct it from their security deposit? Do you have an agreement with them? Did they sign something that said, we agree to pay you $250 for cleaning our room?
We didn't sign anything.
Okay.
In San Francisco, that's the standard fee.
Yeah, Ms. West, I need you to listen to me. I understand that things are very expensive in San Francisco. That's not the question before me. The question before me is, do you have a legal right to withhold $250 of a security deposit to cover cleaning? And the answer to that—
I believe that I do.
No, and I'm telling you, you don't. And the answer to that will lie in it doesn't matter whether it's San Francisco, Tulsa, or Nashville. The answer to that will lie in, well, how did they leave it? Did they leave it so filthy that it required $250 to clean it? So now I expect to see pictures that you're going to show me that show me how dirty they left it. Do you have any such pictures? Yes or no?
No, I do not.
Okay,
I don't
gotcha.
Take pictures.
Now
I do
the
not
next.
take pictures
Oh
like
well,
that.
you might want to. All right. So the cleaning deposit was the first thing you deducted. What's the next thing you deducted?
I deducted money for the food that she constantly stole.
Tell me about that.
Out of the refrigerator, the cabinets. He had her on some kind of a crazy starvation diet where he would give her 2 ounces of pasta.
How do you know he had
And
her
she
on a
would
diet?
Well, I don't know if it was a diet, but I mean, this is what he did. He cooked every night and he cooked 2 ounces of pasta. So sometimes I would offer her a dish or something, but she would go in the refrigerator and eat everything and just continue. And I complained to Philip.
How did you know that it was
Because
her?
it was gone and she admitted it.
Okay, so you talked to her and she admitted it?
Yeah.
Okay, but what evidence do you have that would justify
Sorry, she's a problematic person.
Okay, how much money did you keep for food that you suspect she ate of yours, and how is it?
I think I took $75.
Right, but how do you pick the $75 as the value of
That's
it?
how much I spend money on groceries.
Right,
and
but what proof do you have that it's $75
$75
worth of eating 2 times or whatever times? Like, how are you coming up with the math?
Well, I'm educated.
Okay.
I don't write everything down. I keep track of things. And
All right. What else did you subtract from the security deposit?
I split the money that she stole from my son, who does not live on my couch, by the way. He's a professional poker player, world known, world renowned,
What's his name?
loved, and he came to visit.
What's his name?
And she pretends to be a psychic. And when she pretended to be a psychic, she told him Jack 7 was our card. And then my son told me, oh my God, he said, that's the woman that looked me up on the internet, because he won a fairly significant tournament, and he won with Jack 7.
I don't know what you're saying. What are you saying? She stole $100 from your son?
Yeah, a $100 bill. He had it wrapped around his license.
How do you know that she stole it?
She was observed. Okay, she told him where to find the license.
She was observed
by whom? By my son.
Okay, is your son here to testify?
No, my son is not here to testify.
Okay, gotcha.
He's in Colorado.
So according to you, your son saw her stole it, or assumes she did because she told him where the license was?
He saw her with the license. He saw her with the license prior to it disappearing, and then it disappeared.
Okay, now I'm gonna. That's what we call hearsay. So now I'm gonna. And plus, it's not your $100, so you can't sue for it. Your son would have to. So you can't deduct $100 for that. Are you psychic, Miss Harbor?
I'm an astrologer. I'm not psychic, but he was sleeping on the couch, so I took an educated guess that it would be lost in the couch cushion is where he found it. And his card, according to astrology, is a Jack of clubs, and it's not a Jack of sevens.
Okay. Okay, I don't know.
It was Jack 7. It wasn't Jack of clubs. It was Jack 7, and that's what she told us.
Everybody stop talking about what card it was, and let me ask you, Ms. Harbor, did you steal $100?
No, ma'am.
Now,
Okay, fine. I didn't deduct 100. I had deducted 50. I split it with her.
you split it with her. Either she stole 100
Yeah.
or she didn't steal 100. Which is it?
Of course she did. That doesn't mean that I can't. I was very compassionate toward her because she's goofy. I'm sorry, and it doesn't become apparent until after a while. But Jennifer has been knocked off Facebook for defending her whiteness. I mean, she's very prejudiced, and our family and our house is not a prejudiced household.
Okay.
It was very difficult.
Okay.
She opened the bathroom door and had it lined up so that if I had gone in there in the night, and it's completely pitch black there, so if I had gone in there in the night, I would have fallen down the stairs to my death.
Why wouldn't you put the light on if it's pitch black?
It's not, my house is not set up that way. There's no light in that little section.
Well, it sounds very dangerous. All right. You also withheld, how much did you withhold for the floors?
Oh, I think it was $50. I can't remember right now. When she poured the beer over my bedroom floor and the water.
How did she pour the beer? Tell me how she poured a beer over your bedroom floor.
She came into my room and she took the can. First, she took the water bottle and she threw it against the dresser and it broke and water went everywhere.
Why did she, wait, tell me the circumstances that led to that. Why is someone throwing a water bottle against your dresser?
She was leaving. I'm telling you,
Okay.
She's a nutcase. I'm sorry. She's a troubled girl. Philip has never given us any problems. The only problem that Philip gave us was that the two of them ran two businesses out of their bedroom and took all the bandwidth.
Okay.
And that's what started this problem.
Okay. Mr. Safarik, did you want to respond to any of this?
I have to say that, yeah, she was very nice. At the beginning, she cooked for us and offered food. And but Jenny turned out to be allergic, and she just is kind of, I don't know, the word would be dainty, you know, how she is. And
Yeah, but was she stealing food?
the other people in the house are, you know, kind of like heavier people, you know, that require more food. Jennifer is a rather small girl, and there is no way that she could eat all that food, you know, like.
Okay, did you
we
ever
had
talk
our
to
own
her?
bagels.
Did you ever confront
Yes,
her
of course.
and she said, "I'm not taking the food. I don't know what she's talking about"?
Of course,
Okay.
of course, yeah. We talked about it many times, but I really arrived to the conclusion that it couldn't be Jennifer.
Did Jennifer
like,
throw a water bottle at the dresser when she was leaving?
I wasn't there in the room. I was like right outside the room. I know they like yelled at each other. There was some, you know, commotion, but
And he
I
saw
don't know about it.
saw
water
the beer
got
on the floor
spilled.
and the
Some
water.
water got spilled, but that's all I know about it.
Okay. How would water spilling on the
but
floor cause
also-
you to have to refinish the floors, Ms. West?
Because the floors are wooden.
Okay, I know, but
And
usually you
can't
can
pour,
wipe.
and I had to.
You're right. So do you have
I
any
couldn't wipe
evidence
them
of?
up because I had to wait. I had to wait for the police to come.
Okay.
And so they sat there. The beer sat there. She took the can and poured it all over and said, "This is just the beginning." And then the same thing with the water. This is what she did.
What happened with
for
the police?
entire time?
What happened with the police?
The police came. They told me they couldn't arrest her because they weren't there. But the fact that she was moving, he said, he said, you can get a restraining order. And I said, well, I was a little uncomfortable about getting a restraining order, someone in my house.
Do you have any pictures of anything you're talking about?
I had the floor repaired, so there's nothing.
Well, yeah, you could take a picture before having the floor repaired, did you?
No, I didn't have a picture before. I didn't know she was going to pour beer all over the floor.
Ms. Harbour, I want to hear about the argument you had with Ms. West, because I'm sure something happened.
Well, it was an accumulation of every day constantly accusing me of stealing this, stealing that. She just kept screaming at me until I just snapped and I just started screaming at her back. And then I was kind of scared and I backed up and it knocked off the beer and she started screaming at me to clean up the beer off the floor. So I just, I was dramatic. Yeah, I did spill some water and beer, but it was like I was just so stressed out because she kept screaming at me and I lost my cool and I feel bad that I did that.
All right, the deposit was $650. She returned $125, correct?
130 actually.
130? All right, so then you're suing for
520.
520, all right.
Right.
I'm going to make Ms. Harbour pay Ms. West $100 for cleaning the water and the beer off, not getting new floors. But you can't keep $250 for cleaning if you can't show me that there was $250 worth of cleaning required, because there's no
here's what I can do.
This is the part where you need to listen to me. There's no standard deduction for cleaning. There's no such animal. All right, you either have to agree beforehand that there is a
absolutely not true.
I know.
But in San Francisco,
I know you're special in San Francisco. I know you're special in San Francisco, darling. I know.
They pay and they leave. They pay a cleaning deposit. They knew when they moved in that there was a cleaning deposit.
How'd they know? How'd they know?
No money.
How would they know?
Because I told them, we talked it over, and Julian was there.
Okay, watch this. Mr. Safarik, did you ever agree to a $250 cleaning deposit?
No.
Oh, watch that. How'd that go? That didn't go so well. I'm allowing you to keep $100, and I'm ordering you to return $420. Verdict for the plaintiffs.
So the plaintiffs are going to get $420 back from the defendant. Ms. West, you heard the judge. You got to give $420 back. What's your reaction?
My reaction is that the judge doesn't know. Probably the judge does not do very much with rentals. And in San Francisco, when you move into a property, when you leave, it wasn't just about their room. They never cleaned anything. It was the entire house that they didn't clean.
Ms. West, let me just tell you, the judge heard your testimony. She found against you. You got to give him $420 back. All right? That's the judge's decision. Sorry about it. Ms. Harbour, let me ask you a question. Ms. West was saying a lot of things about you during this testimony, and you had almost no reaction. It was very interesting. Didn't it bother you or not? You were listening carefully, I know.
Well, it bothers me, but she just reminds me of a sad person, and she's funny, and she's a sad person, and I feel so sorry for her. I can't even be offended by her outrageous comments. And when I finally did get offended, I did flip out. It cost me $100, but I think it was worth it.
Okay, Harvey.
Doug, a landlord has a duty to disclose to a prospective tenant that other tenants are living in the same place. That is a material fact that simply needs to be disclosed.
The question is, what kind of dog is Sammy?
Our dog, Sammy. Okay, that was a mystery for a little while, at least among my children, because they were all
But
like,
let's be clear. She was not a rescue.
No.
And I'm allergic, so...
I bought this dog knowing what kind of dog I was getting.
Which is a Labradoodle.
Right. But the kids would argue that, well, she doesn't really look like a Labradoodle.
She does.
Her hair's too straight or this or that.
Looks
the
like
other
a
thing.
schnauzer.
So finally, our youngest, Sophie, decided to have a DNA test done.
She actually did.
Right? But the DNA test was like $100 or something, right?
So she kept asking us to pay for it, so we're not paying. We don't care what kind of dog she is.
And then she got the DNA test, and then her business plan was all messed up, right? Because then she thought she could get everybody to pay.
Right.
She's like, well, everybody, if you want to find out what kind of dog Sammy really is, you have to pay me $20.
Right.
Right. And she asked everybody, and she kept at it for about a week or two, and then finally.
And no one cared. No one gave her a penny, and then finally she couldn't stand it.
You got to sell the subscriptions up front. That was what she didn't get. So her business plan was terrible.
Terrible.
But finally, she just caved and said, oh, okay. And she showed us all.
And
yes,
she's a Labradoodle.
She is a Labradoodle.